All right. For about well over a decade, academic computing has been running this thing we call the venture fund. And we've been running it in one mode that we think has been very successful. But we were curious not too long ago to think about ways we might expand it. So we've done that. And we've just gotten okay from the Council on Computing to do the type of new programs. So we just think we could get more bang for a buck out of the venture fund resource than we've currently been having it. So what I'm going to do right now is just to begin to sketch out some of the new directions for this particular resource. For those of you who may not know, the venture fund, what it does right now, it is a program that is targeted to faculty to support faculty innovation using technology in their curricula. It hands out relatively smallish awards of $5,000 to $10,000 to faculty to support them in improvising and innovating in their teaching and learning for the course by supplying the technology component for that. So what happens is it's the usual sort of thing where faculty proffer a proposal to the Venture Fund Advisory Council. These are then evaluated by the council. The winners are selected and the awards are made and the projects go forward. So that's the way we've been doing it for the past several years. And there's nothing wrong with this picture, but I think that we want to move on. So this is a screenshot of our website, and as you can see at the very bottom, there is the URL for finding it. So the first thing that we'd like to do is rename it. The Computing Technology Venture Fund is a little bit amorphous. It sounds a little bit cold. Also, for us in academic computing, we're sort of doing a shift following the hint from DCAL, being called the Center for the Advancement of Learning. We also are thinking that we need to emphasize learning more. And the whole thrust of the Venture Fund was from the donors to support the students in their learning. So we think it's appropriate to rechristen it the Learning Technology Venture Fund as opposed to Computing Technology Venture Fund. So that's the first thing. The second thing that we want to do is to actually expand the Advisory Council. If you think about the process I sketched out just a moment ago, there's only one thing for the Advisory Council to do. They meet once a year, make the award decisions, and that's sort of it. It seems underutilizing that set of people, their skills and their insights and their perspectives. So what we'd like to do is both expand it, bring students in, for example, onto it, and perhaps increase the faculty presence on it so we get a more variety of perspectives, and also to have them act as an advisory council for the fund in general. Say if we're thinking of doing this or that, pull them into those discussions as well. So not just award decisions, but also sort of determining whether the ship should be steered north or south, east or west. Any questions? If you have any questions, just put up your hand. I'm happy to answer as we go along. This is something that was approved. What happens sometimes is faculty will need just a little bit of something to get them going. They'll need a microphone for an iPod so they can capture the lecture. They'll need a piece of software that can do screen capture. They'll need this or that or other thing. They might need to start off using clickers, they might need a clicker starter set, which is a receiver and a response card. And there was no good place to kind of help faculty with this. So now we will have available to us in academic computing a finite but not terribly small amount of money to do these sort of nickel and dime sorts of things that will just be a little bit of augmentation for faculty who can get going. So if they just need a microphone, they just need a little piece of software or something, we can do it quickly. As we are going to be doing in all cases, we're going to attach one string to it. We're going to ask our faculty to do some sort of assessment. So that you need to share with us your, if we've given you the iPod or given you the clicker set to get going on it, we'll just ask you to say, tell us how it went. And you can either do a lot of assessment or not so much assessment, but we do want to hear from folks in terms of how useful they felt the technology was in terms of helping the learning of their students. So we're always going to be looking for that sort of feedback. But that's going to be a pot that's available to folks via academic computing for, as I said, smaller sorts of things. The fund is also going to support student programmers. We're taking kind of our inspiration here from John Kemeny, who one time remarked that if you put computers in the hands of students, they're going to do amazing things. So we think students, since this is about learning, I think students should play a larger role in terms of what happens here. So there will be resources within the venture fund to support student workers who want to work on projects that will contribute to the learning environment here at Dartmouth. So it could be small projects, it could be participating in larger projects, it could be adding a gizmo to the Blackboard environment so something happens there, or it might be something that's standalone for a particular course, who knows what. But we wanted to have a mechanism to support student work that will contribute to the learning environment So that's going to be something that we're going to be pursuing. We also want to have a little bit of financial support so we can solicit ideas from the students in terms of what would help them most in their learning. I mean, we've been consulting faculty for a long time, and we still think that's an important thing to do. But certainly the students, since they're the learners, they would have a lot of ideas about what would make their tasks easier, what would help them and leverage their efforts. So we are going to be working with the student assembly to conduct almost contests with students, if you will, to have students bring forth ideas, suggestions of things that if this were now in the learning environment, this would help a lot of students because of X. So, and to be a prize for the winning ideas that we actually seize on and start moving forward, putting into production. So it's a way of trying to solicit from the students themselves what they think would help them most in terms of moving forward with their learning. So there's that. Speaker series, we would love to be, I'm sorry, Peter.
So the last one, is that, what kinds of things would be included in that?
You know, I don't, you know, I don't know. I mean, you wonder whether you should ask the students to ask for the moon. They might come up with a multi-million-dollar idea. It would be great if everyone had a MacBook Pro, for example. If the Dartmouth just provided every student with a MacBook Pro, then boy, would our learning be leveraged. And you kind of say, well, that's a little unrealistic. So we haven't really worked with the student assembly enough yet to kind of begin to kind of pare it down to what it needs to be. A way of trying to solicit creative ideas and not limit that too much, but also introducing a note of realism in terms of what's proffered.
So these would be innovation concepts?
These are just concepts now. We are just concepts. You know, the inspiration, at least from my mind, came from a process that was done at the University of Rochester when they were rethinking of redesigning some of the learning spaces in their library. They just brought students in. And they had students brainstorm a lot about, and there were some really wild ideas like, what was it? One, you know, there should be blue sky and clouds painted on the ceiling. There should be glass on the floor and have revolving pictures going to the floor. And you know, some of these you say, ha, but sometimes you think, maybe that's not so far-fetched. And you know, a lot of what schools are doing when they think about how can we use, like, say, again, library space better, they give students cameras and say, take pictures of where you study and tell us, you know, what's good about this space and what's not so good about this space. So the students are going, they're exploring the virtual landscape, they're exploring the physical landscape in their learning, and they should bring back what they learned to us and share it with us, and maybe that will spark ideas in terms of what we could do to help them learn more effectively and better here at the campus. So that's what that's about. It's kind of fishing, and we might get mostly just ideas like paint the ceiling blue with clouds in it, and we might say can't do that, but let's just see what's on their mind and try this a few times and see what's going on. Speaker series. I think there's a lot of opportunity to bring speakers who can, you know, so this would be a way to augment, you know, what DCAL is doing and others are doing. Just let's bring folks in who can help acquaint us with what's going on in the wider world, and again, try to get more ideas on the table so we can put them into discussion and see which ones we want to seize on and which ones not. So there will be support from the Venture Fund for speakers as well. We will be continuing our Venture Fund Classic program the way we've always done it. So Venture Fund Classic is still alive and kicking, and probably by the end of next month you will see arriving in your, if you're a faculty member, you will be arriving in your inbox an invitation to put forth a proposal. So that will continue on, because we really do think that a lot of great work has been done. If you go to the Venture Fund site, you'll see a lot of what's been done in the past. And actually 2/3 of that, of those projects are from humanists. I think this is the last one. Sometimes too, I mean, a lot of what we focus on, these tools we create, are for assignments or things that are done outside the classroom. But what about that face-to-face time? And sometimes I have the impression that we're not making enough resource available to allow faculty even to experiment and innovate in that area as well. So there's going to be some support from the Venture Fund to enable a faculty member who has an interesting idea of something they want to do in a classroom, that is to support a face-to-face meeting of all class participants, to try something out, a piece of technology or technique or something, and we'll try it out and see if it works, and if it works, then maybe that goes to the classroom subcommittee and becomes a real part of the landscape. Again, I don't know exactly how this is going to go forward, but there will be announcements about, you know, a solicitation process for ideas. For this particular thing. But we just wanted to make sure that the face-to-face meeting, which we take pride in as an institution of that type of contact between faculty and students, And it just seems that there should be some support to support and encourage innovation and new ideas for that dimension of the learning experience as well. And I think that's the program. It is the program. So are there any questions about the new Bigger, Better, Braver, Faster Venture Fund, as it were?
I have a question.
Yeah, Roberta, please.
Roger and I had talked with you about trying to make a link up between an FSP and a classroom.
Yeah.
Is the technology there to do that now? We had talked about having the FSP as the eyes and ears of the students in the classroom about a particular archaeological problem or historical problem. And so we'd have an auto feed, and when you said take pictures of where you study, that's what came to my mind. Take pictures of the Roman Forum, but just project them back. Could you have that kind of?
I'm sure the technology is there, depending on the venues that need to be supported. It may or may not be practical, but I'm sure that there was something there. So that would be perfect. It would fit under a number of different programs of this new expanded venture fund. So yeah, we should talk. We should definitely talk. In general, my role in terms of the venture fund is I'm sort of the midwife in all this process, in the sense that I'm not a voting member of the advisory council. So anyone who has an idea about if they want to try X, come to me, we'll talk about it. And I always offer encouragement to someone who has an idea coming forward. But I can do that because I'm not a voting member. I don't have any sort of conflict of interest. I just hand it to the advisory council. I coach people in terms of putting the best possible proposal forward, and then we'll see what happens with the advisory council. But in terms of thinking ideas, helping people focus more concretely on the details of the proposal, that's what I'm there for. So anyone should contact me about that if you have ideas.
I just wanted to add that it's not unusual for a proposal to come to the council, to the advisory council, and we say, well, there's already existing support to get this done, and sometimes almost every meeting we have, we come to conclusions that it's some kind. So one of the ways that the council, even without dispersing money, is it identifies places of support, existing support structures for that kind of. In fact, there are people that are already doing things similar to what you're proposing.
Yeah.
But if you need another piece of software, then there's all kinds of ways to get it.
Yeah, we did.
We should talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a great idea.
Yes, please.
Yeah, outside funding be useful.
The venture fund rests on two pots of money. One is an endowment.
Yeah, the fun part of our budget.
Right. And it also has a spend down component. So these are dollars that were contributed by Dartmouth alums to foster student learning using community technology.
Outside donation.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
I have an off the point but related question. I just want to put it out there. I'm running into more and more faculty members who have outdated computers. Is there any talk anywhere about handling that? There's no longer a devoted set of money to renew, upgrade these computers every 4 years. We're getting new computers. And now that students have better computers than faculty, again, is there any talk anywhere?
There's mention of that. I would say that's an institutional issue.
Yeah, it's larger than.
It's larger than the venture fund. The venture fund cannot buy laptops for faculty. So I mean, I know people will ask, but we would just exhaust it if we did that. So I mean, that's an institutional issue, I think.
Just thought I'd get that out in the air.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.